Alright guys, we are on page 3 of your chapter 7 note packet, so go ahead and pause the video and fill in these blanks. We're going to move into similarity, and similarity means that the polygons are going to have the same shape, but they're going to be different sizes. So we've done congruency, which is the same shape and the same size. They're exactly identical. Similarity, the shape is going to stay the same, but it's going to be a different size, so bigger or smaller. And what this connects to is actually dilations, which we did when we did the transformations first quarter. A couple things are different, but one thing stays the same. So your corresponding angles that sit in the spot, are going to be congruent. That is something that stays true from congruency. So we've worked with this before, but this is the new part. Corresponding sides, so sides that are in the same spot, are proportional now. And we just did proportions previously. A proportion is a ratio, so a comparison of two quantities. So proportional means that they're going to simplify down to the same fraction or the same decimal. They're not going to be equal, but it's going to be the same comparison then. The ratio of corresponding sides is called the scale factor, so again, a word that we used when we did dilations. And if polygons are similar, then their perimeters are also going to be proportional. Not congruent, proportional. So just keep that in mind that we're working with the word proportional for our sides, congruent for our angles. We want to figure out what the scale factor is, and they tell us the order. They want us to go from A, B, C to D, E, F, and we have to make sure we stay in that order. So I'm just going to pick one side, it doesn't matter, but we're going from triangle ABC, so I'm just going to pick A and B, so 8. If I look, 8 is the smallest side in that triangle, so I need to compare it to the smallest side in the other triangle, which is DE. So 12. And that's going to reduce down to divide by 4. 2/3. So it's the comparison of 2 to 3. Or you can represent it as a fraction. If I go in the other order, so let's start with the largest side this time, but we're going in from DEF, so 27 over largest side 18. Both share 9. So really what happened there is that just flipped its order, which is what you should be seeing because of the fact that we're just switching from smallest to largest and then largest to smallest. If I'm looking at my perimeter, if I find my perimeter of my small triangle, that's just the distance around, so adding them all together, that perimeter is 36. And if I do the perimeter of the larger triangle, it's 54. And I'm going large to small, so I'm going 54 over 36, which would reduce down to 3 over 2. So look at that. It's the same proportion as when I compared my sides, going from the larger to the smaller. For similarity, there is this, a symbol that we need to know. It is just the curly Q symbol from the congruency. So congruency had an equal sign underneath it. Not anymore for us. It's just that swirl. A valid similarity statement must match corresponding angles and sides, which is the same thing that we said when we had a valid congruency statement. So that should be no different for us. If I'm going to write one for above, I'm going to just pick my order for the first one. So let's go B to C to A. Similar to, well, B to C traces the middle side length. My middle side length, as far as how long they all are, is E to F. And then after C, I went to A, which is the longest. After F, I need to go to D, which is the longest. So we're just matching up our sides that are corresponding to each other. All right, let's look at number 2. They want us to list our congruent angles and write a proportion that relates to the corresponding sides. So again, these are just going to be the ones that sit in the same spot. So angle X is the first angle, which means it's congruent to angle R. Angle Y is the second, which means it's congruent to angle Y. And angle Z is the third, which means it's congruent to angle S. So what you should notice there is we used angle Y twice because we have this one triangle, and then the other one is inside, or trapping that one. So Y is used in both. As far as my sides go, I need to set up a proportion that compares those sides. So I'm going to pick 2 sides from the first grouping. Let's say X and Y because they're the first 2 letters. Those need to be set into a proportion comparing to the first 2 letters in the other one, which is RY. Those all need to be equal. So every fraction I write needs to be equal. xy were the first two, let's do yz. They're the second two over my second two, which is ys. And then finally, I need to do first and last, yz over first and last rs. And again, these fractions, when we actually have numbers in them, they need to reduce down to the same thing. So if they all become 1/3, then it works. But if one of them is 1/3, the other one is 1/4, and the final one is 2/5, it doesn't work. So they all need to be that same number. Go ahead and pause the video and try number 1 and 3 on your own. All right, we will talk about those in our class meeting. Let's look at number 4. If the figures below are similar with a scale factor of 2 to 3, anytime I see a scale factor, I want to write it as a fraction. So 2 over 3, find the value of x. Well, 2 to 3, 2 is smaller, going to 3 is larger. So if I look at my picture, my smaller figure is my 42, going to my larger figure is my x. I want to solve this. It's a proportion. I'm going to cross multiply. What's diagonal from each other? And then divide, and you'll get 63. And you can actually set that up, and you can do 42 divided by 63, and it should still get you 2/3. Go ahead and pause that video and try number 5 on your own. Make sure you're going from that right order, 6 to 5, so are we going bigger to smaller, smaller to bigger, and set up that fraction properly. All right, you should have typed in your answer as you were prompted to. Let's look at number 6 together. If ABC is similar to DEF, find the value of x. So I noticed that I have some sides that I can work with. So I'm going to work with BC is 20. Well, 20 is my smallest of the two. So I don't really know my smallest of the two in the other one. But if they say they're similar, BC, last two. EF, last two. So they need to go with 28. And since I started with ABC, I need to start with ABC again. So 25 over x. We are cross multiplying, and then we are dividing. So we will get x equals 35. Oops. And again, you can check that and make sure that those ratios stay the same. 20 over 28, what is that as a fraction? Then do 25 over 35. If those fractions are the same, then we're good to go. Go ahead and pause the video and try number 7 on your own. All right, you should have typed in your answer. Let's look at 8. If they're similar, find our x value. So if I start with AG, so 32, AG, first two, okay, x, first two. Oh, and look, there's a binomial, so I want to put it in parentheses. Since I started with triangle AGM, I have to do it again. So my 36 needs to be on top, and then I'm going to put my binomial in parentheses. Because when we cross multiply, those parentheses are going to tell us to distribute. We have to make sure that that multiplication is going to both terms. So I'm going to subtract my 32x. Subtract my 108. And that will get me when I divide. X equals 21. All right, go ahead and pause that video and try number 9 on your own. Type it in when you're prompted to and bring any questions you may have to our class meeting tomorrow.